In this example, we are going to show how we can use some of the JDBC APIs to get information about the database we're connecting to. For example, if we don't really know a lot about the tables and columns associated, we can find out about that data. So let us start again. We're just going to create one simple class. We'll call this database metadata example, and we'll create everything inside of one public static void main. Now, when we scroll down here, we're going to do a couple things. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do two things here. We're going to use our try with resources to open a connection from our driver manager against our local Derby database. Next, in order to get our database metadata, we must get this from our connection because our connection does no information about the database. So we're going to do a get metadata, which gives us our database metadata object. Now let's look at a couple things we can do with that object just initially before we start looking into the tables and columns. A few of the things we can do are things like database metadata dot get database major version, so we can know what the major version of that database is, or get database minor version in case we want to know what that is. We can even say get database product name to know what kind of database we're talking to here and what the product name actually is. And of course, we could even get a product version. And there's a lot of other information we can get just about the database itself, not the contents of the database. We're about to go into that to look at what we can figure out about the underlying database itself. Now, we're going to go through a couple different ways of doing this. Now, we're going to go through this first, okay? First, let's set up a couple properties here that we're going to use for two other examples. Now we're going to look at getting the catalog in question. We're also going to try to find a string for the schema pattern, and we're going to get a string for a table name pattern. And we are going to get a string array of the various types. Now, let's look at what we're going to pull out first, just based on table information. So in this example here, we're going to say database.metadata.getTables. What we want to get the catalog, the schema pattern, the table name pattern, and the types associated with each and every table in this database. We're also going to get this in the form of a result set. So we should know how to process this. Now, just like we have data, we're going to have a while loop while the result.next, meaning there's another table to process. We're going to pull out some of the information. Now, for this example, we're not going to pull out all items. We're just going to pull out the table name, which is number 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to say this is our table name in question. And of course, we could still get other information on that table name if we want. Now that tells us what tables are available, so we could figure out what to do with the various tables. That doesn't tell us what's inside of those tables, like the columns and data types in those tables. To do that, let's go to the second piece here. So what we're going to do now in the second piece, now we're going to add one other piece here, because what we need is additionally, we need a column name. Well, we're going to have several columns, and we're going to look like we've worked before. We've been working with the employee table. We're actually going to get information based on the employee table. So we're going to do database metadata.get columns this time. So get columns, what we want to know the catalog, the schema pattern on the employee table, and we want to know the column name pattern as well. And we are going to get a result set of the table results, what's in that specific table, the employee table. Now, when we process through each and every element here, we'll do it this way. We're going to say table result dot next. If there are more columns, we will process more columns, and we're going to say result dot get string number 4 and result get int element number 5, which is what we want is the column name. And we like to get the column type. What kind of column is this? What kind of data are we holding in that column? And we will print that information out. So now we know how to handle this without knowing ahead of time what's in that table and or what is in the columns associated with one specific table.